The Paul Leslie Interviews.
Our guest is a singer, guitarist, performing and recording artist, a 10-time Grammy Award winner. It's an honor to welcome Mr. George Benson. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, it's all right, man. I hope everything's going all right with you.
Indeed. What has always been your intention or your purpose with the art that you create?
Well, from very early stage in life as a kid, people had me stand up in front of classes and even on street corners when they saw me walking around with my ukulele, they would stop me and ask me to perform. Little Georgie, sing something for me or play something for me. And so I was used to that. And I guess it planted something in my mind. I always needed to satisfy an audience of some kind. So that's still my main goal.
And how would you say that you satisfy an audience? How is that accomplished?
First of all, you got to bring all your tools with you because you're going to be needing them. You don't know which one is going to fit a particular, thing you're trying to accomplish. Whether that song will go over well might depend on another part of your talent. I got a lot of experiences, so I draw from all of them. So I bring all that experience with me to the stage.
I want to kind of go back a little bit. What was the atmosphere in your house like when you were growing up?
Well, my mother sang all the time. My stepfather had not met her yet, but all through my childhood, I remember my mother singing. She always was humming a tune. Even when she ate, she hummed. As a matter of fact, she said when she went to school, they called her Sing because she was singing all the time. So that was her nickname. My father, he was in the war. He was overseas, World War II, and he didn't even know I was born, as a matter of fact, until he came from the war. By that time, I was 4 years old. But he happened to be a musician who played several instruments. He played piano, trombone, and drums. And so my conversation was always about music, especially when I spoke to either one of them. And there was always somebody putting in a request to bring me to their place. Bring little Georgie over and let him sing something for us, or, something like that.
And today, what is the atmosphere in your house like?
Well, there's guitars everywhere. And my many years of experience on the road is documented in a whole lot of photograph, albums. I mean, I've got the history of my career and these many, many photograph albums around, So if I want to go to any portion of my career, I just grab a couple of those off, or 4 or 5 of them off the shelf, and they take me through the whole thing all over again. And it's exciting to see what has happened, because in the early days we weren't getting much attention. When I came out on the road to perform, for the world, I was 19 years old. And very few people knew who I was. But that changed very quickly. So my history is in the books, and when I look around, I have 2 offices here. I'm in one of them now, and I see pictures of me with very famous people, some not so famous but very close to my heart. I see a statue, a small statue of my producer, Tommy LaPuma, who produced the song This Masquerade that changed my whole life. I see a picture of my son with Whitney Houston when they both were very young. And I see a picture of Natalie Cole. She's looking very beautiful. And I see a replica of the star that I have on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood. They sent me a replica of it. So those are just a few of the things I'm looking at the time.
You mentioned a lot of names there, very iconic names. Who would you say has taught you the most about music?
Charlie Parker. And my father was a good friend of his, and he talked about Charlie Parker all the time. But I didn't become familiar with him until I was about 17 years old. I started going to jam sessions. And after a while, I realized most of the songs that the jazz musicians were playing were inspired by Charlie Parker. They were trying to play bebop. And Charlie Parker was one of the founders of bebop music. He, along with Charlie Christian and Dizzy Gillespie and Thelonious Monk. Yeah, so I had an auspicious beginning, but it all came together when I finally realized that Charlie Parker was the shaker and the mover. So I began to look out for him and study his concepts. I haven't caught up with him yet, but I sure love him still.
We're talking with vocalist and guitarist George Benson. Would you say that music is a brotherhood?
I feel a kinship to all musicians, especially to guitar players and piano players and saxophone players. But guitar players, we have a particular, challenge ahead of us. And I understand that challenge, so I'm very close to guitar players all over the planet.
You've recorded with so many incredible guitarists. The late Jet Atkins, also Earl Klugh, Lee Ritenour, and then also other artists like Stevie Wonder, Freddie Hubbard, Al Jarreau. Is there any that stands out the most in your mind?
Well, first of all, when you mention one of them's name, one of the names you mentioned, any one of them, a whole lifetime goes through my mind. I think about the great times we had putting together the music, not knowing exactly what we were going to play, but we had the musicianship to challenge almost anything put before us. And when I listen at the records, I don't believe how wonderful they came out, because we went in with very scanty ideas, which is what we prefer to do, to tell you the truth. We like the scanty ideas that allows us to add things of interest on top of the outline that they bring to the studio. And all the songs were good on the album with Earl Klugh, for instance. And he, being like myself, a lover of guitar, we already had enough kinship and enough friendship going till it was just a pleasant situation all the way around, and the record proved it. We sold millions of records, and the record stands out in my discography.
What kind of man is Earl Klugh?
One of the kindest, gentlest fellows I've ever met. He reminds me a lot of his hero, Jet Atkins. Jet Atkins was like that too. But Jet Atkins had so much power in his domain down in Nashville, Tennessee. He was King Jet Atkins, And when he picked up the guitar, you know why they called him King. And you could see where other guitar players had styled themselves after him. He set a precedence for guitar playing, and it still stands today. He was a very, very friendly guy, and he always surprised me when he picked up the guitar. I thought I knew what he was going to play, and he would play something altogether different. And so we enjoyed being around each other. He treated me like a brother all the time.
We're talking with George Benson. Is there any competition with anybody else?
There's always competition, but I don't prefer it, to tell you the truth. I know the competition really can hamper. It hampers talent, because if you go in there thinking you got to beat somebody up to make a statement, that's the wrong reason for playing. The right reason for playing is because you love music and you love your audience. That's the best reason to play, not to go and hurt somebody's career or beat somebody up on the bandstand. And I have a problem with that, because people expect me, because my name is George Benson, and I have so many accolades in front of me, or behind me, or whatever it is. They expect me to go out there and chop people to pieces, and I don't enjoy doing that. I like to play for the sake of playing and learn something all the while. Once I went on a tour with McCoy Tyner, one of the greatest musicians I think I've ever met in my life. And I learned so much, and the reason why I learned is because I learned to listen. And that's always been my best attribute. I have big ears. And by being on the bandstand with a man with that much talent and listening to him talk about his coming up and how he got to be McCoy Tyner, one of the most respected musicians in the world, and playing with one of the greatest artists of our time, John Coltrane, those were invaluable in the sense that it's not going to happen again. It happened once. Now, I met John Coltrane, but I didn't hang around him like McCoy, so he could speak about him in depth. And I did hear them together in the early days, and it was a powerful, powerful thing that I ingested by being around them. And then later, when I took McCoy Tyner on the road with me, it was hard for me to do my show because I was busy listening at him play. And every time he touched the piano, he made gigantic statements. So I'm still in the learning stage, and every time I hear his name, I think about the things I learned from him.
Based on what you just said, why is it important for an artist to love his or her audience?
I consider that the reason why I'm playing, one of the main reasons why. I mean, when I'm by myself at home, I pick up the guitar and I'm very happy to go tickling around, and creating new vibes, things that I've not heard before. But the audience kind of it brings it back. It allows you to exercise all those things that you heard when you were practicing at home. Now they're going to have an effect on thousands at a time. And this is your time to get to know whether the things you're working on are valid, whether they actually mean anything. Do they mean the same thing to the audience as they do to you when you were practicing them or putting them together? It's a testing ground, but it's a good thing because it can make so many people happy. So it's something that I enjoy doing better than making records and any other entity that I do, that I enter into. I love that, just being in front of an audience and making people happy.
There's a lot of universal themes that go through music: love, death, the meaning of life, religion. There's many. What topic would you say has dominated your music the most?
Romance. Music can be very, very romantic. I'm not a political person. I don't like that kind of thing. Like I said, I don't like war and battles and things like that. So most of my stuff is not about that. It's usually about a relationship of some kind. Or if it's dance music, it's basically it basically leans towards making people, move. And that's important too, because I find that people don't really like sitting in the same spot for 2 hours. They want to be a part of it. So even if I'm being serious with my guitar, I break that up and put something danceable in there, something that they can join in, either singing or dancing. They usually is a dance thing. They can jump up and they wiggle around, and pat their feet, and that shows me their feelings about my music.
We're joined by George Benson. In today's world, what should the role of an artist be?
Well, it's a heck of a field because, like you mentioned earlier, you can make any kind of statement from a bandstand. It's actually a pulpit for some people. Or they use it to air their particular things, to get a message out of some kind. I don't particularly like to do that. I like to keep it on the entertainment side because deep down, that's what I am, an entertainer who happens to be knowledgeable in the guitar world. I hung out with the greatest musicians of our time: Barney Kessel, Jim Hall, Kenny Burrell, Tal Farlow, and people like that. And so I still feel them, although some of them are gone. I still feel them when I pick up the guitar. Every now and then I'll hit something that reminds me of one of them, especially Tal Farlow, because he was so different. And also Hank Garland, who was a rhythm king and a harmony man. He was a man who had great control of both rhythm and harmony. Although he was a country musician, basically, he had talent outside of that because he had so much facility. He could actually play anything he wanted. So I think about people like that, and that's what keeps me straight.
What is the best compliment you've ever received as a musician?
Probably Record of the Year at the Grammy Awards, because it was very unexpected. And I was already happy just to be mentioned alongside of the people who were being featured that year, and they had really great talent that year. The people that I ran against were some of the best performers in the world, and they had great records. Both of my competition had records that I loved, so I didn't think I would win. But when Barbara Streisand said, "And the winner is George Benson," everybody leaped to their feet, including me. It was a highlight of my life, to tell you the truth. And from that moment on, everything changed. My whole life changed. So it's a great moment in my life, yes.
What did you think and how did you feel when Frank Sinatra told you that you were the great guitar player, his favorite?
Wow. Can you imagine? I heard him. I was in the studio making a record with the great Frank Sinatra. And then I heard his voice. I know his voice very well. He could be talking or singing. I would know it anywhere. But I heard him say, "Hey, George." I said, "He can't be talking to me because he doesn't know me." So I'm looking around for the other George that he must be talking to. And sure enough, he was looking at me and, "Hey, George, bring your stool over here and sit beside me," he said. I said to myself, "This cannot be happening." And it was a little scary because I thought he was going to ask me to do something I might not be able to do, you know. But he told me just what you said. He said, "Dave, everyone knows your guitar playing. I love your guitar playing." He said, "But I also love your voice." And when he said that to me, I thought about all the critics who panned my voice and said, "No, George Benson should not sing. He should play. He's not a singer," and so forth and so on. All of that went out the window. I finally dismissed all of those terrible assessment of my vocal talents. So Sinatra is very important to me. He straightens out a lot of things. When I'm feeling strange, I think about that statement, and all of the strangeness goes away.
We recently lost one of the greats in music, Al Jarreau. What did you learn from Al Jarreau?
How important it is to be different. You don't have to have a whole lot of different things, just one. Of course, Al had a lot, but his voice, the color of his voice and the way he approached music, as if he wrote every song. And don't get me wrong, he did write a lot of songs, but he could take a song that was already a classic and turn it around and make it sound like it was, he had to write it because he did it so well. You would say, "Did Al write that song?" And you know daggone well he didn't. And one song in question would be his version of Take Five. When I heard him sing, that was the first thing I heard him sing live. And I just played it, and I played it on the guitar. I was not known as a singer then. And then he came up on, I had just played it, and then he came up on the stage and sang it, and I said, "Wow, I never thought about that," you know. But when we were recording together, I knew that if I took a song that people knew already, and they heard Al do it, which he wasn't used to doing things that way. He's used to making up things in the studio, you know. He knew he was going to knock people's socks off. I said, why not do it in a song that they're familiar with? And at first he resisted. But when he got around to singing it, it was just like magically. It was fresh air all the time when he opened his mouth. Or when he just walked out on the stage, there was something about his mannerism. And when he opened his mouth, that different voice came out, and you were in another place. It was like a stage show with real, true artistic talent, you know. So I really enjoyed him. I enjoyed just standing back watching him work.
What is the best thing about being George Benson?
I'm glad I had an opportunity to do what I didn't think was anything particularly great in the beginning. Music was so natural to me. I didn't think it was anything big, you know, just to be known as a musician. Then they start saying, "I'll pay you to sing," and I said, "What? You'll pay me to sing? Oh, that's different. Okay." And so I got used to that, you know. But all in all, I never imagined that I would be hanging out with Benny Goodman, substituting for the great Charlie Christian with Benny Goodman's band. Wow, what a knockout that was. So I said, maybe this crazy name I got, George Benson, will mean something. Because it wasn't a slick name like my friends, Wes Montgomery, you know, Miles Davis. It sounds so, you know, incredible that their names sound like they were meant to be in the music world. John Coltrane, you know. And it just was I never imagined my name being anything. And when I teach, when I talk to my public, I bring up something they do understand. One guy said to me, my name is so ordinary. I know it ain't gonna never mean nothing in the music world, George. He said, "You think I should change my name?" I said, "No." I said, "You ever heard of Engelbert Humperdinck?" And he got the message. Any name is what you do with that name and what that name represents that makes the difference. So I finally learned to live with the fact that I'm going to be George Benson all my life. And all I can do is make the best out of that. And the audience has put a meaning to that name. So, yeah, I'm very glad to be George Benson. Happy with that.
I'd like to give you the stage as we close here to our audience, wherever they are, whoever they are. What would you say to them?
My main thing that I always say to people is I hope I get an opportunity to show you what I'm doing right now, because I practice every day just about. And I'm always thinking of something that has not been done before. But, you can't just slap people around with it. You can't just knock their socks off with that. You have to work it into what they already know because they expect to see the George Benson they know. So you got to give them that. Then you add one or two new things or nuances to what you already do. And then you're on your way to another successful year and another successful concert. So I hope I get an opportunity to play some for you people out there, wherever you are. I like the country Romania that you said you were in. I've been there, and it's just fantastic. But I like people everywhere in the world, so I'm anxious to play some more music for you.
My last question. At heart, who is George Benson?
I am a man who is glad to be alive. I like speaking about spiritual matters. I'm also a Bible teacher. I'm a Bible student first, and then I also teach the Bible. So that's my joyous thing. The most joyous thing I do is helping people to understand the scriptures or studying the Bible with them so we can come to an understanding is a better way to say that. That's my most joyous thing that I do. And I realize that my gift, which the Bible says everyone has their proper gift of God, I know what mine is, and I'm going to make the most of it. So that's who I am. I'm George Benson, the Bible man and musician.
It was very nice to speak to you. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, my friend. I hope we meet in person the next time.
Indeed.
All right.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you too. Take it easy.